BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Adam Binnie and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 2nd of May as we look ahead to a thrilling weekend of Scottish football action.
I'll go into the game with a plan for the game to win the game, but there's also going to be an in-game strategy.
It would transform the football club, you know, there's possibly no limits to where we can go.
Tonight we find out who will win the Championship, then on Saturday the race for the third continues.
I don't think it would be too much of a surprise to see the likes of Hibs and Aberdeen up there at that end of the table. As I said, the fact that we're only 3 points behind both those teams is a credit to the group.
Hibs host Dundee United in what could be a pivotal encounter, and as if that wasn't enough, on Saturday
Tegan manages to the edge of the box, he shoots, he scores! Rangers score! Oh, that is magnificent! That is absolutely magnificent from the Celtic captain!
there's just an Old Firm match to come on Sunday.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
I'm delighted to say I'm joined this morning by former Dundee, Falkirk and Rangers striker Rory and former Scotland goalkeeper Gemma. How are we, guys? You okay?
Great, thank you.
Right, let's start off with tonight, the big race for the Scottish Championship title. Everything will be decided tonight. Falkirk seemed to be in complete control just a few weeks ago, but Rory, one of your former clubs, where has it gone wrong?
Pressure, Adam. It's the hardest bit to do is get over the line. I mentioned it a few weeks ago in Sports Sound. They were playing Airdrie at home, I think. They did win that game, but I made the point that winning that last point you need to get over the line is the toughest one. They've not managed to do it as of yet. I think if you were to handpick a fixture, especially on the back of yesterday's appeal result, which Hamilton didn't succeed in, I do believe that Hamilton at home is probably the best fixture for Falkirk. So I think John McGlynn is quoted as saying it's the player's choice whether they want to be in Falkirk on Monday or Ibiza.
I certainly know where I would rather be. Rory, have you been in a situation like that before? Maybe not exactly in the same circumstances with goal difference and everything on the last day, but I mean in terms of a title race as you get towards the end of a season, have you been in something like that before, and what's that kind of like?
Yeah, with Falkirk, probably one of the closest we came was my first season at Falkirk. We were actually 3 points behind Dundee, I want to say. And goal difference was tight enough that it could have been a swing, and that was the day. I don't know if you remember. I think Hamilton went. Morton went to Hamilton and won. Hamilton won 10-1, so that obliterated any opportunity we had. So Dundee ended up finishing first because they had beat Dumbarton, and Hamilton finished second. We finished third, and that was the year that Hamilton beat Hibs in the playoff. That was the first ever time the playoff setup was in place. So, yes, I have been part of that before. We had an outside chance. I've also in League One down in England been involved in the race for the playoffs on the last day. So, look, it's nervy, it's fraught. You've just got to keep your composure, keep your head, and yeah.
Gemma, we've seen a fair bit of fragility in this Falkirk side the last few weeks. Do you think they're mentally strong enough to get over the line tonight?
I guess it's an individual piece, and it's about having experience in there. And I think the likes of bringing Scott Arfield back in brings that level of mentality and being able to perform under pressure because he's done it, and many of those players have done it before. And I think because they came so close last year as well, that sticks in the back of your mind. That's an extra driver. I just think that Falkirk and Livy have been handed a script to make it as exciting as possible. Take it down to the last game. Falkirk's last 2 games have been nuts. I mean, it's a wonderful advert for Scottish football and the Scottish Championship. What's happening? But I think I think that quote by John McGlynn kind of sums up. There's nothing more he can do. There's nothing more his coaching staff can do. They have all the tools in the box. And this is when it's passed over to the players. It's those players, those 11 players, and whoever else comes onto that pitch. It's a choice to embrace the pressure, It's a choice to take the opportunity that they've worked hard for and they've built over the season, and it's a choice to say whether or not you're going to give in to pressure or not, or just embrace it. And I think there's another twist in this tale, as there has been over the last few weeks, but I would really like to see Falkirk do it. I think that over the last couple of seasons, they've shown that they've built the club both on the field and off the field to be able to take that step up into the Premiership.
Where would you rather be on Monday, Falkirk or Ibiza, Gemma?
Depends if this weather keeps going, Adam. Let's be honest. It's cheaper in Falkirk. That's all I'll say. It's cheaper in Falkirk.
Of course, they're up against Hamilton tonight. They lost their appeal last night against that 15-point deduction. The club also released a statement yesterday saying that they're going to be playing their football at Broadwood next season, 15 miles north of their home at New Douglas Park. Rory, with all of that going on in the background, is it quite hard to see how they're going to recover both tonight immediately and then from next season?
Yes, but how many times do we see when a club's down and out, the shackles come off, there's nothing to play for, and they've got that little bit more freedom? And I can tell you something, see, as a player, you don't want to be the club that allows the other team to win the league. You don't want to be involved in that big party at the end, the fans running on the pitch, you're desperate to get off, you've been beaten again, you're getting relegated. No, you don't want that happening.
And they've got a bit of history as well, don't they? Falkirk and Hamilton from their time in League One. Don't think the fans get on.
I wasn't too aware of that, but we had a few ding dongs with Hamilton in the Championship. Certainly, when I was there, they beat us in the playoffs as well. So I just think that'll be the bit between Hamilton's teeth. Okay, they've nothing to play for. They're relegated. They're moving to Broadwood and all the rest of it. But this is their time to say, do you know what? We're not going away quietly.
Gemma, how do you think Livingston will approach this tonight? Of course, they've got to take care of themselves, win their own game. But in terms of everything that's going on with the Falkirk match, I'm sure the players will want to try and keep up to date with the score and everything that's going on. How do the players approach this?
Well, I think Martindale's played a blinder, hasn't he? He's taken all the pressure off him and off the players. He says, it's Falkirk's. Weeks ago, we're out this. It's nothing to do with us. And ultimately, that kind of mentality has taken them to within touching distance of being able to kind of steal this title away from Falkirk. I don't think they'll be thinking about that match whatsoever. That game against No, I don't think so. Like, why would you? Because there's absolutely, I was going to say something bad there, but there's nothing you can do about that. You've got a game against Partick right in front of you. This is the famous sports psychology thing, and this is the thing that all the players say in the pressers is control the controllables. And ultimately, there's nothing you can do about Falkirk versus Hamilton. All you can think of is, well, they've had chances in the last 3 weeks to win this and they've not done it. So that gives you a little bit of boost. But ultimately, if Livingston don't match or better Falkirk's result, they're not winning it. So they've got to put their focus into that game and hope that the shackles do come off, as Rory says, because I don't think Falkirk versus Hamilton is as straightforward as the table tells. I think there's going to be twists in that. And I don't think Livingston versus Partick Thistle, I can't call that one either. So I think this is going to be a really, really interesting night in the Scottish Championship. I think I can't call who's going to win this because actually these are just two cup finals, aren't they? There's like an underdog there in terms of Hamilton. They should have no right to win this match in terms of what's going on where they find themselves this season. And then you've got Livingston versus Partick, which is a tough one to call. Partick needs to secure those points to secure that fourth place. So I would be, if I was a Livingston player, I would be focusing fully on what I need to do. Of course, there's going to be a bit in the back of your mind, but you need to block that out as well, because if you're focusing there, you're not focusing here. Right, and there'll be one hell of... No, don't push me, because I'm not going to say.
Come on. Right, we'll try Rory then. Rory.
Well, every time I predict in the last 3 weeks has been completely opposite. So I don't want to be like the target of some campaign because you said that meant that happened. So one of them's going to win. Don't know which one.
Rory, can you give us a winner? Who do you think is going to win the title tonight?
I agree with Gemma. I don't think it'll be straightforward. I think it'll be fraught, but I think Falkirk will have enough in the end.
Well, remember, everyone, if you're listening to this, you can watch Falkirk versus Hamilton tonight on the BBC Scotland channel. You can also watch Livingston versus Partick Thistle on the BBC iPlayer and on the BBC Sport website. BBC has all of the live action from the Championship tonight in the big two games, so certainly lots to look forward to this Friday evening. So let's move on and take a little look at Saturday's matches as the build-up for the battle for third heats up. Hibs' unbeaten run came crashing to a halt last week as they lost to Aberdeen. This is where David Gray's hard work comes in, picking his team up this week. Rory, what do you think the message has been from the Hibs head coach this week?
I think he'll have focused more on the performance than actually, the fact that this run's come to an end, which got a lot of publicity. And I don't think they played badly, particularly last weekend. But I think if you look at their last performance up at Pittodrie, they're capable of playing better. So I think he'll just be focusing on getting it right on the pitch, working on things tactically, and trying to approach the game at the weekend in a manner where they can come away with 3 points. I don't think it's going to be I think, he would have addressed the run at Pittodrie after the game, congratulated the players, disappointed it came to an end. Really, really strong performances over the last 17 games. But I think moving forward from Monday, it just simply becomes a week of hard work, of graft, and of putting the effort in to get it right for Saturday. I don't think there would have been a big hoo-ha about the fact they've lost on the Saturday against Aberdeen.
Of course, they host Dundee United at Easter Road this weekend. Gemma, do you think if Dundee United are to have any chance of finishing third come the end of the season, do you think they've got to win this game on Saturday?
I think they've got to not lose this game on Saturday. I think if you take the Celtic match out of it, they've been kind of slow and steady over the last 3 games before that. 1-0 win apiece, and I agree with Rory. I think that Hibs were probably good enough for a draw in Aberdeen. If you think about the chances that they created and the opportunities they had, and then if you think about the goal that Nisbet scored, which was a fantastic goal. So I think a reset will just happen at Hibs. I don't think it's absolutely not whole-scale panic, just a reminder of this is what it felt like, let's not be there again. Dundee United, between them, they've had one apiece and a draw so far, so it's been tight between them. But I think if Dundee United go to Easter Road and take those 3 points, I think it's a huge result for Dundee United.
Yep, Rory, Aberdeen, the other side in this race for third. Of course, they got that win over Hibs last weekend. They'll be looking to try and build on that. They face Mirren. They haven't won in Paisley since 2018, so that should be an interesting encounter. It's been a really strange season for Aberdeen. Of course, an amazing start. They then have that dreadful run just after that. Now with that win last weekend, do you think that's a kind of the boost and the springboard they need to finish the season really strongly and go and take that third position?
Yeah, it's been a strange season in terms of teams up and around third place in Hibs and Aberdeen. All their wins seem to have come in a bulk, and all their losses and defeats have been the same. Jimmy Tilling's probably looking at things going, wait a minute here, David Gray's nominated for Manager of the Year. Well, is it Manager of the last 6 months or is it Manager of the Year? And that's quite often how it works, because you look at Hibs and Aberdeen season as a whole, there's not a lot to split them. Okay, you can look at a dreadful run from Aberdeen in isolation, but if you're going to do that, you need to consider the fantastic start, and you need to consider the fact they've been decent over the last few weeks. They've got to a League Cup semi-final, and they've got to a Scottish Cup final, so he's probably looking at things going, people have very, very short memories. However, the stat that you just read, Adam, was quite galling, in that they've not won in Paisley since 2018. I was at St Mirren last week to watch them play against Rangers. They certainly weren't playing like they didn't have anything to play for. I'll be there again tomorrow for Sports Sound. Thoroughly looking forward to it. And I think Aberdeen have got a task on their hands if St Mirren perform the way they did last week.
Yeah, certainly do. Top side are Stephen Robinson's team. Gemma, I have to ask you about your team, St Johnstone. It's getting really close to last chance saloon, do you think, for the Saints? Last season they looked good, a lot of effort, but no points. Have you given up hope yet?
I don't think you can ever give up hope. That's not fair. You're not allowed to be a supporter of a team and never give up hope. But I can be a realist, can't I? I think that, look, St Johnstone needed a victory against Motherwell last week. We didn't get it. There was a couple of minutes, and it was almost like summed up the season, which is play some really nice stuff, but we just switch off defensively at times, at moments that cost us, and ultimately that cost us last week. Now, I think that, Dundee's victory versus Hearts, I think, pushes them up momentum wise. I think the fight, if I'm being honest, the fight is for the playoff. The fight is not for the relegation spot. That being said, I like minor miracles. I'm all up for them. But Kelly have turned things around a little bit recently. Derek McInnes is a wily manager. He is fully aware of the position that St Johnstone are in. He's fully aware that Simo Valakari will come out with that attacking team. And it's a tough one for Kelly to navigate. Look, if St Johnstone managed to get a victory this weekend and Ross County slip up against Hearts, well, you don't know, 3 games left and we're kind of still in it. Unfortunately, trends suggest that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Gemma, that was an interesting game that you noted there, that Ross County Hearts match. Of course, you'll be hoping for Hearts to get the victory over Ross County. Rory, I'd like to ask you about this one, because Liam Fox conceded yesterday that Hearts are in a relegation fight. It seems that the pressure is on everyone at that club just now. If they are to go to Dingwall and lose, this is no longer just a relegation fight. This is a real possibility that they could go down.
Yeah, and it's almost what Gemma was touching on there. If you're down the bottom, you don't want to lose hope. But if you are not mathematically safe, then you don't want to get too comfortable either. So Liam Fox would have said that to try and generate a little bit of what's the right word? Put a rocket up some of the backsides of the Hearts players, because they've been pretty woeful last week, and I'm surprised they sacked the manager, I have to say. Really surprised. That's probably a debate for another time. But I do believe that Hearts have got enough to go up there and win. Ross County, of all the teams down there, I just feel like Dundee, even though they go through sticky patches, they're capable of pulling something out the fire. Kilmarnock are the same. So I think Hearts will sneak it by the odd goal. It'll be tough going up there. I know the last time I think they were 2-0 up and conceded 2 ridiculously late goals, so they might have a bit of PTSD, but I think they might just scrape it.
Yeah, lots of interesting games this weekend in the Scottish Premiership, and all the games are available on Sports Sound. Your Saturday starts with Off the Ball on BBC Radio Scotland at 12 o'clock. Finally, let's look ahead to the last match of the weekend. Sunday's Old Firm encounter at Ibrox. Celtic midfielder Arna Engels has spoken about revenge this week after Rangers won the last 2 Old Firm games. Rangers have performed well in these games, but really struggled against others. That's been the story of their season. You've got to say, Gemma, how do you see this one going? Barry Ferguson, of course, won the last one. Do you think he'll just try and approach it in the same way?
It's an interesting one, because it's you would usually lead with an Old Firm match, wouldn't you? You would usually lead with an Old Firm match on this podcast at this time of the season, and it would be a crunch deciding match, and it's not. And I imagine it would feel slightly deflating around about, and it feels slightly deflating talking about it, because what's really on the line here is pride, isn't it? That's it. That's all that's really on the line here, because Celtic have run away with the championship. Maybe they're chasing the goal tally. Maybe James Forrest is chasing that. It's just going to get the ball to James Forrest, please score, so you can keep your run going. Rangers have secured that second Champions League kind of spot. So this is that in my eyes, that's what it is. Rangers, you've got Celtic at home, you've got the champions at home. The last thing we want them to do is come to our patch and win. That's the narrative that I can see from it, because there's not much else riding on that, I think.
Rory, do you think it's more important for Rangers to win this game?
I mean, we've seen the dead rubbers at this time of the season before. I seem to remember one. I think Cantwell scored early doors. They won 3-0. Celtic had wrapped the league up. and everyone had renewed optimism, only for it to fall flat on its face again. So, look, I don't think this result has any bearing on what happens next season. What I will say is that if you'd fallen off the face of the earth the last 7 months, you'd came back and somebody had told you that Rangers had won the last 2 Old Firms, taken 6 points from 9 from Celtic, scored 9 goals in the last 3 games, you'd be looking, going, right, well, the league must be, at least, if Rangers aren't top, it must be close. And then you look at the league table and they're 17 points behind. It just shows you how poor they've been in other games. Really, really poor. And they were the same last week. It was mistake-laden performance. So against St Mirren. So in terms of importance, as an Old Firm, on the day you want to win, I just think that it doesn't really have any bearing on anything. People have said before these games, well, momentum going into next season, there'll be too much change at Rangers. I do think from Celtic's point of view, it'll probably not sit well with Brendan Rodgers if he's to lose 3 in a row, especially with the record he's got. That'll bother him over the summer, but of all the things to bother him, that'll probably be right at the back of his mind, because in my mind they'll go on and win a treble.
Yeah, Gemma, as Rory said there's going to be a lot of change at Rangers this summer. Do you think, this game and the kind of remaining 4 matches, there are guys in there playing for their future, trying to impress a new sporting director? Kevin Thelwell has just come in.
Yes and no, because I'm not sure. I think that what will become really clear over the next month or two is a direction of travel for Rangers. I'm not sure that's really clear, because you don't know who that long-term manager is going to be. Thelwell will have a structure in mind for the entire club, and there will be a system that they'll want to build within that. So you can't get rid of everybody at once, is the thing. And I think it's, what is it that you want to see from the Rangers play, other than the given, which should be the attitude, the commitment, the desire to be a winner and go and win things, because that's the type of player, and understand what it means to play for Rangers and show some of that in your performances. That's like the kind of given. How they want to play moving forward, what identity they want to have. That's kind of difficult to say, because that's highly dependent on what structure they want to put in place and what kind of style, as I said, they want to develop within that club. So any player, when there's change coming up, wants to step up their game, absolutely, because that's their career, that's their bread and butter, that's where their money comes in. I'm not sure it's going to be entirely up to those players whether or not they stay or go.
Well, still always a big match is the Old Firm game, and you can listen to that live on Sports Sound. We're on air on Sunday on BBC Radio Scotland from 11:30. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this morning. Many thanks to both Rory and Gemma Fain. Thank you all for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Thanks once again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.